Every few weeks, it happens again. You open the news, scroll for a second, and there it is. The government spent billions on this. The country is drowning in debt. Future generations will pay for today's mistakes. People get angry. Some panic. Others immediately jump to one conclusion. This is reckless. This is stupid. This will destroy the country. But here's something that almost never makes the headline. Almost every country on earth is in debt. Not just struggling countries. Not just corrupt ones. Rich countries. Stable countries. Countries people admire. Germany has debt. Switzerland has debt. Qatar has debt. Japan owes more than twice the value of everything it produces in a year. And the United States? Over $36 trillion. And still counting. If debt is so dangerous, why hasn't the world collapsed already? Why do governments keep borrowing money instead of just printing it? Who exactly are they borrowing from? And is national debt really a ticking time bomb? Or something far more complicated? To answer that, we need to start with something simple. What debt actually means when a country has it. When people hear the word debt, they usually imagine personal debt. Credit cards, student loans, mortgages. So it's easy to assume national debt works the same way. But it doesn't. National debt, also called public debt or sovereign debt, is the total amount of money a country's central government owes. Not its citizens, not its companies, just the government itself. Think of it this way. A government earns money mostly from taxes. But when spending exceeds income, it has two choices. Cut spending or find extra money. That's where borrowing comes in. Unlike individuals, governments don't walk into one bank and sign one loan. They borrow from many sources at once. Other countries, financial institutions, investors, and sometimes even their own citizens. And here's a common misunderstanding. National debt does not include regional or state debt. California's debt is not U.S. national debt. Texas's debt isn't either. It also doesn't include personal debt. Your credit card, your student loan, your mortgage. None of that is part of national debt. Once you understand that, a bigger question appears. If governments can control money, why don't they just create more of it? At first glance, printing money sounds like a perfect solution. Need more cash? Just print it. No loans, no interest, no debt. But history has already tested this idea and failed. When governments print money without limits, something dangerous happens. The economy gets flooded with cash. Prices rise. Confidence collapses. Money loses meaning. This is how hyperinflation starts. Venezuela, Zimbabwe. We've seen it before. Money becomes so worthless that people would rather hold foreign currency, or even basic goods, than their own cash. Debt, surprisingly, acts as a restraint. Borrowing comes with interest. Interest forces discipline. Discipline forces governments to think twice before spending. But discipline alone isn't the only reason governments borrow. They borrow because sometimes they don't have a choice. Every government has a budget. Taxes come in. Spending goes out. When spending is higher than income, that gap is called a budget deficit. Imagine a government collects $3 trillion in taxes, but needs $4 trillion to run schools, hospitals, infrastructure, and public services. That missing trillion has to come from somewhere. Cut spending. People lose services overnight. Raise taxes. Public anger explodes. So the least politically painful option is borrowing. And this is before we even talk about inefficiency or corruption. But not all borrowing is about survival. Some borrowing is about speed. Picture a country with terrible roads, overcrowded schools, and hospitals that can't keep up. If the government refuses to borrow, it has to wait years, sometimes decades, saving money before building anything. Meanwhile, people suffer. Borrowing allows governments to build now instead of later. Better infrastructure improves productivity. Better education creates a stronger workforce. Better healthcare reduces long-term costs. If done properly, this kind of debt pays for itself over time. But sometimes, borrowing isn't optional at all. Wars, natural disasters, financial crashes, pandemics. When emergencies hit, governments don't have time to save money. In 2020 alone, the United States borrowed nearly $4 trillion to prevent economic collapse during COVID-19. Without that spending, unemployment would have been worse. businesses would have failed faster. Entire industries might not have survived. Borrowing bought time. But there's another darker side of debt most people don't realize. Governments often borrow to pay off old debt. When a loan reaches its deadline, governments don't always pay it off in full. Instead, they take a new loan to repay the old one. This cycle can continue for decades. As long as the economy grows and investors trust the government, this works. But when trust disappears, everything breaks. Sri Lanka learned this in 2022. $51 billion in unpaid debt. Mass protests. Political collapse. Debt itself wasn't the problem. Losing control was. Which brings us to the next question. Who is actually lending all this money? Governments don't borrow from one giant bank. They borrow from three main sources. The first is their own people. When you buy government bonds, you're lending money to your country. In return, the government pays interest. Citizens buy bonds. Banks buy bonds. Investment funds buy bonds. Even government agencies buy bonds. In the US, a significant portion of national debt is owed internally, one arm of government lending to another. The second source is foreign lenders. Foreign investors, banks, and even governments buy bonds from stable economies. Japan and China hold massive amounts of US debt not out of charity, but because it's considered safe. But weaker countries don't get that luxury. When trust is low, they turn to institutions like the World Bank or development banks, accepting strict conditions in exchange for funding. And when no one else will help, they turn to the IMF. The IMF doesn't fund development. It prevents collapse. Its loans come with conditioned spending cuts, tax increases, privatization. These measures stabilize economies on paper, but often hurt people in the short term. Greece, Argentina, Indonesia, each experience social tension after IMF programs. Sometimes the medicine saves the patient. Sometimes it leaves scars. There's also one last source of borrowing few people understand. The central bank. In theory, governments can borrow from their own central banks. The bank creates money and buys government bonds. But this risks inflation and currency collapse. That's why modern central banks usually operate indirectly, buying bonds from markets to control interest rates, not to fund spending. Which brings us to the biggest misunderstanding of all. Is national debt actually bad? Debt isn't good or bad by default. It's a tool. Used wisely, it stabilizes economies and accelerates growth. Used recklessly, it drains resources and destroys trust. The danger zone begins when interest payments consume money meant for healthcare, education, and public welfare. Countries also have credit ratings, lose investor confidence, and borrowing becomes expensive or impossible. That's how debt crises begin. One common measurement is the debt-to-GDP ratio. It compares debt to economic output. There's no magic number. Some countries survive high ratios. Others collapse at lower ones. Context matters more than numbers. Which leads to the final question. Can a country ever be completely debt-free? Technically, yes. Practically, almost never. Every country carries some debt. The closest example often mentioned is Macau. But it isn't a country. It's small, wealthy, and uniquely structured. Large economies can't operate that way. Eliminating debt would mean massive spending cuts or extreme tax increases. Both slow growth, both trigger unrest. No debt also means no government bonds, removing one of the safest investments in the financial system. Pension funds rely on them. Retirement security depends on them. Debt-free sounds clean, but it's not always healthy. National debt is a double-edged sword. It can build nations or break them. The real question isn't why countries have debt. It's whether they understand how to manage it. So next time you hear someone say, "Our country is doomed because of debt," remember this. Debt isn't the villain. Mismanagement is. And maybe next time, we'll talk about why some countries survive massive debt while others collapse under much less. If you want that video, you know what to do. Thanks for watching.